Welcome to season 4 of the Outstanding Women Leaders Witty and Wise Conversations. I'm your host, Katie L. Leeds, founder and chief owl at Outstanding Women Leaders Owl Professional Coaching and Podcast, an organization dedicated to empowering women in leadership, relationships, and life. Owl is on a mission to host 100 million witty and wise conversations that inspire you, disrupt the way leaders think, and stir your soul into action. That inspiration begins the set of rules to guide our conversation today. Rule number 1, nobody gets to be wrong. Rule number 2, nobody gets to be right. Rule number 3, everybody gets to be vulnerable. And my favorite rule number 4, everything is included. If your child walks in, the phone rings, it's on the podcast. We do not edit here. This conversation is exactly what it needs to be in this moment in time. We've asked our guests to join us via video to allow us to create authentic connection. Eyes are the window to the soul. You will be seen here. You will be heard. There is space for you. When this conversation comes to a close, I will ask our guest 3 questions. If you've tuned in before, you know what they are. If you haven't, you don't want to miss them. But enough about me. Today, I'm excited to welcome Outstanding Women Leader, Shavonne Reed. Shavonne is a highly acclaimed, internationally traveled speaker and award-winning entrepreneur and marketing executive. She's been invited to speak to organizations worldwide. A trained journalist and has published many thought leadership articles and hosts the Future Health Now podcast. She has expertise across e-commerce, health maintenance organizations, mass media, digital media, government agency program implementation, communications, dental and medical device manufacturing, and marketing and sales. With over 17 years of corporate health experience working for top-tier entities such as Kaiser Permanente and the CDC, Shavonne has lived experience in leadership development and corporate training related to women of color in the workspace. Additionally, as a professional keynote speaker and trainer facilitator, she activates inspiration globally across corporate organizations and employees, known as the Happiness Broker, where she speaks on her career journey and encourages you to stand in your purpose and power. Shavonne is the founder and CEO of OPUA Agency. OPUA is a Gen Z targeted health and wellness company focused on chronic disease prevention and health promotion through marketing and communications, headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. Shavonne is passionate about spreading the importance of healthier lifestyles and generational health through her company, OPUA Agency. She's an honor graduate with a BA in communications from the University of West Georgia, holds an MBA in marketing from Georgia Southern's Parker College of Business. She's been studying, researching, and writing about the phenomenon of positivity and happiness for nearly 2 decades, and even longer if you count her years as a student who was bullied and made fun of. In addition, she's also a wife and mother to 2 amazing teenage daughters, which she calls her most proud achievement. Welcome, Shavonne.
Hello, how are you?
I am good, and I can't wait to hear all about your bullying experience because I connect to that as well. And we'll talk a little bit about your book too, The Ugly Duckling. I need to know all the things. So let's start there and then we'll work backwards.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
So bullied as a kid, tell me a little bit about what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, so I don't know. It seemed like I always felt like the ugly duckling, hence the title of the book. But I was called names like white girl and ugly. And then I really felt ugly because my ponytails didn't quite hang. They were like, I think they kind of got about like this long. And so I don't know. Early perceptions of hair just kind of really put a damper on that whole self-perception and ideal image of what I thought I should look like. I don't quite remember, but I do have pictures to tell the story. My best friend who had very flowing, long, beautiful hair. I mean, it was just dark and just curly. She showed up to my birthday party with hers all out. Well, she often wore one ponytail, and I always wanted one ponytail because my hair was so thick. I could hardly ever get it into one ponytail and it looked like anything. So my mom would always say no to the one ponytail. So that was the first thing there. And then when she showed up with her hair all out and she got all this attention and it was like, oh, and it just, I don't know, it did something to me. And I was only like 3 years old. So it was really heartbreaking to just reflect back on that time to know that I dealt with that and kept that emotion hoarded into me, in my heart for all that time. And then I have the picture where I hid under the table at the party because I was so upset and distraught about, this whole catastrophe. And I was really hurt and upset. And so, it's funny because as I have become a mom, I have even compensated for that with my kids, and I have so many stories about it. But, just being accepted amongst my peer group, it was always a challenge. Of course, I had friends. I wasn't necessarily the popular girl, and my family didn't have a lot of money. So I ended up going to a school where a lot of the kids were, well off and everything. And so there was just a difference, and it was felt, and people didn't hesitate to call it out.
Yeah. I find it so interesting to hear when women like ours, like I say, I also identify with ugly duckling. And there's a couple of areas we always come back to. One is hair.
Hmm.
Do not have pinned straight hair, and that was the in style. And the thinner hair was the in style. And my mom did at-home haircuts. So I had and then my mom, her wisdom was like, if we cut the bangs shorter, we won't have to cut them as often. Right. Yeah. Or when you say the ponytail, what I think about is I had the bangs that they were just on point. And I didn't want to wash my hair because my hair is very authentic. It does what it wants on the day that it does it. And I had the pony, you can only put hair, it's greasy in a ponytail, right? And
Yes.
so I'm greasy hair, but perfect bangs, greasy hair,
So
I this is a thing for women that and if we could bond over it, and although it's different, black hair, white hair, they're very different lived experiences, but at the same time, we're talking about just being self-aware and of being a different, of being an other and
yes.
not having what, the person has. And going to public school, I remember these shoes that were really cool that everybody had. And my parents weren't going to buy those. They didn't have the money for that. So we went to Payless and we got the knockoff versions. And
Oh
then
my gosh.
and then a girl called me out about my knockoff
The
version of
same
the shoes.
exact thing happened to me. Oh my gosh. I thought they were like the pro wings, or they were pro wings, but I thought they were like the kids. And I was so excited because I had these brand new shoes. They were clean, pink and white. I got them from Payless. Yes. And oh my gosh. And they were like, what are those? In Modern Talk. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it was so heartbreaking.
Yeah. And how silly I think as an adult of, giving this particular label my money versus giving that label my money. And, this is all manufactured in marketing and labels of why we want that, but it made me feel less than. I will
Yes.
send you, it's on my Instagram page as well. You talk about inspiration. I have my 8th grade ugly duckling photo.
You do?
I had terrible acne and I'm wearing a Tweety Bird sweatshirt that was $50 that my
Uh-huh.
dad put on a credit card at J.C. Penney's because his daughter wanted it
Oh.
so badly.
Mm-hmm.
And I even remember the price, right? And $50 back then, that was a lot of money.
Oh my gosh,
Right?
yes.
We're going to the Aldi and we're getting groceries for a week on $50. And my mom, I remember my mom being a little upset because she wouldn't have bought me that. I'm as an only child, so dad had the task of getting me this sweatshirt to wear for 8th grade photos, and Disney,
Oh.
expensive, what have you. And I definitely look like an ugly duckling. You'll see my greasy hair in that photo too. It'll be great. Uh, so this is your childhood. How does this lived experience, how do you bring that into today and supporting people and in leadership and well-being?
So it allows me to relate in so many ways. I can relate on the adult level just because of the lived experiences I've had in corporate, where the trauma of similar experiences, but in the adult version, caused me to retreat, and not believe in myself, lose self-confidence, and it pretty much silenced me, if you will. And I still had that halo effect of not just believing that I was enough. And I just recently discovered the whole Google I Am Remarkable campaign,
Mm.
and I didn't even realize that was a thing. So now I'm actually pursuing facilitation over that whole program because for years I struggle with anyone giving me a positive comment or feedback about myself. And of course, I really couldn't talk about myself, and it would just cause me to get so emotional. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with me? And I mean, I have plenty of pictures to prove it, because I was like, I'm documenting this because I know it's for a purpose. I didn't know what the purpose was at the time, but so I actually understand that, like, to my core. And I really can empathize with others that have lived those experiences or that are currently going through them. And then I also can empathize with my kids and their peers, because it's like, I have been in that same situation. I totally get it and understand, and I can guide you, give you advice, show you how you can, be resilient in those instances, and a better way to look at it so that you don't end up compartmentalizing all of that negativity, and then it building up such a horrid feeling inside of you that you can't overcome. So definitely able to show up and be there for others who are experiencing these types of feelings.
Yeah, relatable. This is how I talk about it as well, is
Mhm.
whatever you throw at me, I'm gonna be able to probably relate to it.
Yes.
Because even if you told me that you were the popular kid and your life in high school was amazing, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I tried to play that life once."
Uh-huh.
And I remember I got into the in group once. This is a big deal in 5th grade. I worked
Uh-huh.
my way in, and then, I was kicked out. I was not
Oh.
cool enough to stay, if you will. But that
Mhm.
relatedness is such a gift. And when you think about supporting women in leadership, women in entrepreneurship and well-being, oftentimes what I hear is, well, I want people that have had the same job as me, that know the same language. But really what you want is someone that has a shared lived experience. And the
Yes.
more experiences that you have in life, the more you have to share with others.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so true.
Mm. So tell us more about how you are bringing the happiness. What was the phrase? I missed it here.
The
The
happiness broker.
happiness broker. I love that. So you go from this, ugly duckling to being a happiness broker. I'm going to tell people. And people ask me, what do you do? I usually say I leave sparks of joy wherever I go.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. So I went into this whole self-discovery phase and was really trying to identify, who is Shavonne? Like, what is my brand? And everyone will always tell me, like, oh my gosh, your energy is just so infectious, and you bring joy wherever you come. And people would say, don't ever let dim your light. And I think I really had to come into my own and accept who I was. And it was so funny, because I remember very distinctly when I decided I am pretty, because my face doesn't change and it is what it is. Like, because some days I would feel pretty, other days I feel ugly. And I'm like, how could you be both? Like, I didn't have any metamorphosis or anything, right? So I heard Halle Berry on, I want to say it was Arsenio Hall show. It was a late night show. And she was like, if you're cute, you're cute. And so I started adopting that mantra, and I was like, man, if you're cute, you're cute. So even on my worst days, I had to tell myself, no, you're cute. If you're cute, you're cute. So just live with it, accept it, and run with it. And, one of the things that I have been able to impart on my daughters is a similar, mantra. Like, you can't overindulge or be vain in trying to figure out how you're going to always look the part. You are the part just as you are.
Mm.
You have to be comfortable in your own skin. And that was the whole reason why I launched my company, because I wanted to have this cosmetics line that really empowered women to feel comfortable in their own skin. So OPUA actually stood for Of Pure Unique Attraction when it was a cosmetics line. And eventually one day I'm going to bring that back to life. But um that's this whole thing about evolving, right? And so as I went through the pandemic and my mom's health declined, she had several issues that were preventable, chronic diseases. And then I started thinking about my own future health. And it was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing to make sure that I have future health and that I'm around for my girls? And so I evolved the whole thing. And it was like, had to do some soul searching and figure out what is my purpose? What is my passion? What is the thing that I was sent here to do? And it was really coming full circle because I look at back all of my experiences. The first like paying job where I was paying taxes was with the CDC as a summer student in TB elimination, which is part of the chronic disease center. And then I was like, I had a stint there in, doing maternal, well, women's reproductive health was the division that I supported in communications. And then I thought about like all the jobs that I had. What was the one thing that really resonated with me? What gave me the most energy? And it was all of those things where there was some kind of social impact tied to it. There was one instance in particular where I was volunteering at a school because I was with the dental manufacturing company. Of course, we had sensors for, treating um dental or oral care. And so the kids, just seeing them be able to get that dental care that they wouldn't otherwise be able to get for whatever reason, one reason or another. Maybe their mom was afraid to take off work and, trying to keep her job so she wouldn't take them to the dentist, or they didn't have dental insurance. And so all those types of activities really was what kind of made me feel like, oh, this is my jam. And so I was like, I really feel like that is my purpose, is to really help people identify and understand how it is to live healthy and how to make healthy choices, because I think generally people do want to make healthy and good choices, right? It's just a matter of like their culture and what their environment is. And you have to help them to be able to see it through a different lens versus just saying, oh, you should eat your vegetables. Oh, you shouldn't drink alcohol. But you got to be able to relate to them. And so, with the creativity that I have and the experience that I have, that is the one thing that drives me and helps me, just really feel like I'm showing up for others. And so that's how we became the Optimistic People Unified for Awareness. And Future Health starts now.
Hmm. So many good nuggets in there. We'll start with the future health starts now. You're targeting Gen Zers, you're raising Gen Zers.
Mhm.
What does the future of the health of Gen Zers look like now? Because I know millennials are on this track where we're supposed to have worse health than any previous generation.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you read all these articles and they say, well, millennials, they know they're more conscious of health and that kind of thing. And there has been an uptrend on, people being more physically fit and active, especially with the advent of Instagram, because you can see everybody else getting in shape, right? So you're like, oh, I need to do that too. Um, but with the Gen Z, I find that they are a little less inclined to get moving for whatever reason. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with, the onset of the pandemic and just kind of getting them in a rut. But I also believe that they don't necessarily see the urgency because everything is like a quick, fast fix, right? We run, get some fast food here. But as we continue to educate them and help them to understand, okay, you have this runway where you can do whatever you want and it has minimal effect. But the patterns and behaviors that you're putting into place, when they carry over and you continue to do these behaviors, that's when it's going to, infringe upon your health. So you have to start thinking today about, what do you want your health to look like in 5 years, in 10 years? Do you want to be struggling, having to prick your finger to see if you have, high blood and need some insulin today? And just giving them that awareness and trying to help them to just kind of see things from a more futuristic and holistic lens, I think is really key at this point.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting knowing that Gen Zers are about 25, like the brain isn't fully developed, executive functioning until 25 to 30. And so that ability to even think in the future is so hard for them. And, educating, I owned a CrossFit gym in a former life and did all the nutrition and wellness classes.
Mhm.
I hit over 200 pounds. I was a
Mhm.
college athlete that gained 10 pounds every year for 6 years. And
Wow.
I realized, walking up to see my principal, I had to climb up to the fourth floor. I'm like, I'm out of breath walking up these steps. I shouldn't be out of breath. And really what changed for me was I found what lights me up is people. So
Mhm.
I actually don't really love CrossFit workouts. I left that cult. I sold that gym. And it wasn't a cult for me. I mean, we were ages 7 to 74. We were very different in how we supported people. But that impact that you're having is actually every single meal. So being able to share even with the Gen Z of, so these food dyes, here's what's happening to you chemically as a result of the food dyes. Your concentration level is based on what you eat. Your ability to feel not depressed or to feel like actually going out and moving, all of those things are actually impacted every meal that you have. So it's much more, today, the 5 years down the road becomes, and that is, that was sort of the tipping point for me of watching my mom go through her health struggles that were related to type 2 diabetes that she had from the age that I was 10. And I didn't want my child to lose their mom like I did,
Yeah.
because and I don't have kids yet. So like if I'm really gonna peace out on them early if I don't get myself together, because I'm 40 and my mom is the oldest one in our family to live, and she passed away at 67. Like her entire family on her side, like her DNA, all heart issues. And so knowing that and helping Gen Zers even realize, we are designed as our bodies to live for over 100 years. We're designed to squat like little kids, and we lose that ability. An object at
Yes,
rest tends to stay at rest. And
exactly.
those Gen Zers are resting.
A little too much. And so that we have a very similar shared experience in that as well, because my mom actually didn't have her health issues to onset until later. But they were very chronic and they were very detrimental, and it was a steep decline. And I had the same feeling and awakening, like, oh my gosh, if I don't prioritize my self-care, then I won't be here for my daughters. My mom passed away at 62, and it was like, wow, like I never in a million years would have thought that, I would be saying goodbye so soon, because my great grandmother lived until she was 97. And that was my mom's grandmother. And then my mom's mom, she's still alive and she's 80 years old. So it's like, what happened, And so
Yeah.
I
So you have the
definitely,
good DNA and the good genes. It's whether or
yes.
not you're expressing the good ones with your diet or if you're expressing the other ones with
Y-
diet.
Yes.
Hmm. So there was a couple other nuggets you said I wanted to go back to. I
Mhm.
love the so accepting who you are. This is where the ugly ducklings have to accept. If you're cute, you're cute. I love that. I'm gonna put that.
Mhm.
So this is funny because this is actually how I'll speak to myself in a mirror. And I have a best friend from high school who's like, how do you just like walk down the beach and like feel confident? And I'm like, I just walk down the beach. Like there's no mirrors, thank God. Otherwise, I would be looking at myself. Like in my head, I look amazing. Like,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
We know that we can do that. Even looking at myself in the mirror, like I look at myself and I'm like, there's people uglier than me. Like if you're cute, you're cute. Like really owning and accepting who you are. This is the avatar we are given. Like this is it's the shared experience that we have allows us to unite and with people and share that. So we wouldn't change it.
Right.
So why would we? And then, you talk about your face changing. I turned 40 next week, and I'm like, I swear I woke up and my face was older the next day. I'm like, where'd that line come from? Where did this come from?
Well,
And
I
yeah,
always tell my daughters, I'm like, I'm forever 21. So that's my thing. And if anyone asks me how old I am, I always just give them the year that I was born, and they have to figure it out. If
you let
you
them do
really want
some
to
math.
go, you do the math. I'm forever 21. That's how I feel. That's how I look. That's how I think. And it shows up. So,
Yeah, and it's become sort of your superpower, right? The whole story of the ugly duckling. Like you were just in the wrong pond with the wrong ducks, hanging
yeah.
out doing the wrong things. And that's really where our light shines. And that's where we see other people. We would never tell a friend they look ugly today versus yesterday. Why would we tell ourselves that? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. I always tell myself I'm probably a week without sugar and 10 glasses of water away from having a better face. Like when my face looks older, if I just give up sugar for a week and start drinking more water, my face will look younger. And
Oh my gosh, that is so true. And you know what I do too? If I ever have a bad day, like if I feel like my hair is not nice or I feel ugly for whatever reason, I take a picture deliberately on that day. And then I look back at it maybe like 10 days later and
Mhm.
I go, oh my gosh, I was so beautiful. Why did I even think that? And so then you kind of learn and you start to tell yourself and understand, hey, I'm beautiful just the way I am, and I am remarkable.
That makes so much sense. I like that. When I look back at pictures of myself as a kid when I thought I was fat, but you could see my like spine. What was I doing? It was the comparison game, being a woman when you get your period in fifth grade, which
Mhm.
I know that people get it younger now, but I was one of two women. That means my body looked different. It
Mm.
also meant I was 5'5" in fifth grade.
Mhm.
So I weighed over 100 pounds, but nobody else weighed 100 pounds. And, back
Right.
then they would bring the scale into your classroom. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
100%. Now they wouldn't say it out loud to anybody, right? It was yours to share or not share. And so, you find the one person that I had the bond with was the other woman that was over 100 pounds. And and then we were like, oh, we're the same, but we were both the same height. Of course, we were over
Okay.
100 pounds. You can't be 5'5" and be 80 pounds. That wouldn't make sense.
Right. Right.
Um, so being remarkable, I do know some people that are in that campaign as well that I coach. They have a
Really?
remarkable
Yes.
campaign. So very cool. Amazing social impact you have. I'd love to know a little bit more about your podcast. Tell us a little bit
Mhm.
about that.
Oh, of course. So, Future Health Now is the podcast that focuses on really just educating, informing anyone who is looking to steward the next generation of health. So, think health communicators, advocacy, policymakers, parents, anyone that has an interest in future health. Would love to interview people who are, actually doing the work. So I've had on like researchers from CUNY University up in New York, from nonprofit organizations. And we've had some really good, insightful tips on how to really effectively communicate health. Because a lot of us have the onus, and whether we accept it or not, but um, little things, think best practices that work in health campaigns, things that don't really work. I remember speaking with the owner of the rescue agency, and she was just telling us about how their campaigns are really relatable for Gen Z when it comes to tobacco use. And so trying to eliminate opioid usage and things like that. And so, taking it from a different lens, being culturally relevant so that the message resonates with the audience, so the intended audience, and then really identifying ways to break the codes with media. So, traditionally, we want to get messages out to the masses, right? The people that can afford the products. But when you're talking about marketing health, you have to come at it from a different lens, really. And indeed, you do, because the people who need the message the most are the ones who are not afforded the opportunity to get those messages. So traditional media buys just don't work. And so that's the kind of, conversation that I like to have with the subject matter experts that can help other people to enrich their campaigns, enrich their efforts, and to be able to stand up meaningful campaigns that will definitely have an impact.
Mhm. Couple other things that you said that I want to make sure we highlight before we wrap up here.
Uh-huh.
Traditional media buys don't work, and I do think it's important. Your lived experience, to be able to bring that into supporting people and being culturally relevant. How you stay relevant. You're up on all the TikTok trends. You've got your Gen Z kids to keep you relevant. It's just a breath of fresh air to hear you talk about how to help support health in a way that we don't typically think of supporting it. And
Mm-hmm.
you are the part. You don't look the part. You are the part. I love that. I absolutely love it. Wrote it down, big one. And this is probably how I like live my life. I live my life as if it's a big improv class, and
Mm-hmm.
I am starring in this role. But sometimes I choose certain outfits so that I can look the part. And so it's fun to think about. I guess I like to bring the power back to me of I am the part and this is the part I want to look like today.
Yes, yes, you have the power.
And speaking of power, Shavonne, as we wrap up today, what is your superpower?
My superpower is enthusiastic collaborator. I like to connect people. I like to just share. I mean, there have been so many instances where I just needed a little bit of help, a little bit of insight, and it's kind of hard to find that. And so I really genuinely like to be that for other people because I missed out on that along the way. I mean, and it was really heartbreaking. And so I know how it is to, be laid off from a job. I know what it is like to, have that separation anxiety from your 10-month-old and having to make tough decisions about putting him into a daycare, one that you can actually afford or that is, logistically works for you. Because at one point, my husband and I, we were driving like 30 miles out of the way, one way to get our kids into the what we thought was the best school. Turns out it wasn't really the best environment for them, redirected, but we were willing to make that sacrifice. And so, being able to speak to people and share my experiences so that it can enlighten them and help them to feel confident to make an informed decision that they won't regret, that just warms my heart.
Mm. What's your purpose?
My purpose, I think, is just to spread happiness everywhere I go.
We got to hang out together. It's definitely part of my
Yes,
purpose.
we do.
And my favorite question, what's next for you?
What's next? Oh my gosh. So I have my hand in so many pots, but the one that I'm really, really excited about right now is really going on the road and talking about my book. Really inspiring other women, especially after discovering this whole I Am Remarkable campaign, because there are a lot of layoffs going on right now because of, the
Mhm.
climate of,
Yeah.
the economic climate and things like that. And I want people to just realize that you can be resilient and overcome anything. I mean, I've had friends who've, overcome amputations and, had dreams that they thought were destroyed, but actually came back to life. And those things really give me hope. And so if they can do it, oh my gosh, I can do it, then you can do it.
I love that. So book tour coming up for you. Where can people find your book online right now? Where can we connect with you?
Yes. So at ShavonneReed.com. The book is there under ShavonneReed.com/ugly duckling. And I'm doing autographed signed copies of the advanced reader version. Of course, you can buy the ebook on Amazon right now. And then soon we'll also have the soft and hardback copies there as well as the audio version. So look out for that to come. So I'm really excited.
Yes. I'm excited to just share this podcast as your book's coming out because that's probably about the time it's going to release.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I drop that link for where you can get a copy of Ugly Duckling. Um, and I also like to give my guests the last word. So, how would you like to leave our audience with today?
Oh, I will reflect back on one of my favorite quotes that has guided me throughout my entire adult life. So, because I come from a place of lack, a mindset, with being raised by a single mom where, it was very hard for ends to meet, I always felt like I had no choice but to make the right decision. And so I put a lot of burden on myself to really figure it out and not make mistakes. And my cousin Philip gave me a card one day, and this was for my high school graduation. And it said, the moment of absolute certainty may never arrive. And so make the best decision and don't regret it and don't look back. Just, accept whatever the outcome is. And so that is what I would like to leave everyone with today. Just do your best with what you have. And then if you have to, just give yourself grace at some point in the future and focus on your future health now.